Okay.
Sharing.
Yes, Prabhuji. So now it is live. So shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांशं श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांशाम्। हे कृष्ण करुणसिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. That was wonderful as always. Very beautiful. So we will do a bit of Kirtan and we will dive into the Krishna book. And I'll just share this one. Hopefully, you should be able to see the Radha Madhava. Yeah, you can see, yeah?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So, if as always, just start off with a prayer, for the pleasure of Radha Gokulananda, and ask for the blessings. And it's really nice that we are continuing in 2025 also with our with our Krishna Katha, and so many more beautiful chapters to go. And as we always seen that Krishna Katha is full of nectar. So much we draw from every time we just go through the beautiful pastimes of Lord Krishna. And we've seen that, and it really it's so amazing. As I always say, the best way we can understand Bhagavad Gita is when we link it up with Krishna Katha and we try to go through the Leelas, then we can see the practical application when you see with the devotees how much they are so absorbed in the love of Krishna, and it becomes very easy to understand Bhagavad Gita when you relate it to Krishna Katha. So it's very, very joyful to always, recite about the divine pastimes of Krishna. Just want to just give me a minute. I'm just going to plug it with my. Just want to make sure I have enough of battery here. You're able to see the screen, right? That's not a problem at all. So I'm just going to put my. Just give me a minute. I'm going to just put my. Yeah, just give me a minute. I'm just getting hold of my charger here so that we don't have any problem while we're going through the Krishna Katha. Amoga Prabhu, you can hear me all right, no? Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Just give me a minute, Prabhu. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can hear me all right, right? So let's get going. So as we always invoke our do our listening before we start off. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. As we always mention before we start the Krishna Katha, where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoviti Tatvataha Chakradeham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti. So Arjuna, where Krishna says that listening to Krishna Katha is so auspicious that people, the devotees who are listening to Krishna Katha, who understand the divine Leelas, that we understand that this is not on the material platform. Janma karma cha divyam, which is everything is spiritual and transcendental, anything related to Krishna Katha. So we have to always mentally be in that consciousness that this Krishna, whatever Krishna does in Krishna Katha, which is part of the Bhagavatam, is completely divyam, and they're all spiritual and transcendental, not to be understood on the material platform. And last week we covered about, we started off with the five queens married by Krishna, and we seen how Krishna is so caring towards the Pandavas that he goes to Hastinapur to go and inquire, because there's been a rumor that the Pandavas have been, they were there in the fire, they were put up, they died because of the fire accident. There was a rumor like that which is spread, but later, of course, Krishna is Antaryami. He knows everything that's happening in the present, in the future, as well as in the past. He mentions that, isn't it? So here Krishna is, as always, very caring towards his devotee. And we see from time to time in every Krishna Katha that Krishna is so caring towards his devotees that he's always very keen to see how they're getting on, and whether it is the gopis who are waiting for them in Vrindavan, or whether it's the Pandavas who are always having this unalloyed devotion towards Krishna. And Krishna, and that's the reason why Krishna is constantly reciprocating, because all that he wants from his devotees is unalloyed devotion, which is what we can find in Krishna Katha, that either we take Pandavas or whether you take Draupadi or even the gopis, all of them had the same thing, that they had unalloyed devotion towards Krishna. And this is one of the most important things that we have to learn from Krishna Katha. And so in this particular chapter, you're seeing like how Krishna goes to Hastinapur to inquire from the Pandavas. And we also see that Krishna is very keen to see like the skill set of Arjuna. So he joins with Arjuna, because Arjuna goes on a hunting this thing. We also covered like about Krishna meeting Kunti Devi, and how she kind of like, and as we all know, in Bhagavatam there are a few things which are very very well known stories. One of the things is the Kunti Devi's prayers, or something which are very very well known in Bhagavatam, because very well known in the sense that most of the people in material life, we always keep asking for solution to our problem, and here is Kunti Devi doing the opposite. She's requesting Krishna that never to forget and to give as many problems so that we will never forget Krishna. So this is an amazing thing. Like we can learn from Kunti Devi that her devotion is so much that she's like she thinks that when the problems are there, that's the best way that we will not forget Krishna. But I think as devotees, that's what we always try to understand, that whether we are in problems or whether it's in joy, we should always look at, never forget Krishna and always remember Krishna. So that's the most important thing that most of the devotees always carry forward. So after meeting Kunti Devi, and we see the beautiful prayers that even Yudhishthira was so kind of like so feeling so much of gratitude towards Krishna. Is like, Krishna, what did we do in our life that you're giving us so much of love? I mean, we really deserve? What did we do in our previous life that you're giving us so much of love? So we have to understand that when Krishna is showering this love on us, this is not from this life. There's so much of we must have done so much of austerity and so much of piety that we must have in our previous life, that we have in this life. We got so much of Krishna prema. The very fact that I was just thinking about it today morning, out of 8.4 million species of living entities, we transmigrate and finally we get a life of a human body. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhana mam tu vetana kashna. That means out of after transmigrating 8.4 million species, finally we get a human life. And out of thousand of human out of 1,000 of people, hardly one person is interested in spirituality. And out of all of them who are interested in spirituality, hardly one person knows Krishna in truth. So we can imagine how rare Krishna Bhakti is, that we are coming to this platform, which means we have come a very, very long way. But here is Krishna trying to give us more nectar so that we'll develop more love for Krishna, and so that this can be our last birth and we just go back to Krishna Loka. Because like a loving father is always trying to attract us with all these divine pastimes. The very purpose of the divine pastimes is to develop love for Krishna, so that we can go back to our original place, that is Krishna Loka. So after meeting the five brothers, Lord Krishna went and met Kunti Devi, and after the Kunti Devi seen all the beautiful pastimes and of how Kunti Devi was praising Krishna, that he was always there in the times of problems. So we like to take from these stories, like how do we develop love for Krishna? By listening to these divine pastimes, listening to see how the Pandavas are. Because one important thing in the material world is whether we like it or not, the problems are going to be there. It is the nature of the material world. Just like how an iPhone works in a certain way, the way this material world is a world of duality, ups and downs, happiness and distress, and things like that. So even when the Pandavas were there, it's not like because Krishna was there, they were like, everything was like a cakewalk. Even that time also they had a lot of problems, but still at every time they depended on Krishna, um, and depended on Krishna, and Krishna always saved them at all point of time. Whether it's the fire accident that this chapter started with the fire accident, which there was a rumor that Pandavas have been killed by the fire accident, and we seen that Krishna was there at all time protecting him. And this is the message that Krishna was saying in Bhagavad Gita, like Mat Chitta Sarva Durgani Mat Prasada Tarishyasi Ata Chetvam Ahankara Nasrushasi Navinakshasi. That Krishna is making it very clear. And like I always say, Bhagavad Gita, if we link it up with Krishna Katha, we'll understand it even clear. In the last chapter of 8, Moksha Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that for in all obstacles, if you will be able to overcome all the obstacles in your life, if you depend on me and by my grace, you know. So so if we take to the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna is guaranteeing you in Bhagavad Gita that by my grace you will overcome all the obstacles in life. And if we link it to Krishna Katha, we see that that's what Pandavas is happening. So every time, whenever they had a problem, we see that Krishna was always coming and protecting them. And this is the reason why Kunti Devi is offering her prayers, and even Yudhishthira also praised Krishna that you are a universal friend of everyone. And also we've seen that after that, Krishna and Arjuna is getting prepared to go to the forest, and over there we've seen that, and Krishna is very keen. He wants to see, whether Arjuna has, like, is he preparing himself well, because Krishna knows the future, and he knows that in future there's going to be a war, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So he's very keen to see like whether Arjuna is prepared or not, and. And so both Krishna joins along with Arjuna to go over there, and we see that when it's very interesting to see, like, at that point of time also, it's not like Arjuna was such a brave warrior that he killed many tigers, boars, and all those things, right? And he sent them, and animals that were fit for sacrifice were sent to Yudhishthira and things like that. And then we just recovered to that point where Arjuna, he was feeling thirsty, and then he went to the Yamuna river, and then the scene, a very beautiful girl, and who's actually Yamuna personified, and Krishna was very keen to see, like, who's this girl, and just Krishna asked Arjuna to go, and can you go and ask this girl who she is and things like that. And then so Arjuna is inquiring, you seem to be looking very beautiful, like, there must be some reason why you must be roaming around these banks of Yamuna. And that girl, she says, and she's the daughter of the sun god, and she says that she's looking for as an austerity for having Lord Vishnu as her husband. And she knew that Arjuna and Krishna are friends, and so she's, like, this is a typical thing in there, isn't it, in college days? When you like somebody, you will go and tell the person's friend so that you convey the message. So similarly here, she knew that she was interested in Krishna, and she thought, okay, if I can just pass this message through Arjuna, then maybe it can go through her. And then we see that Krishna, and then Arjuna passes on this message to Krishna that this girl, she seems to be, her name is Kalindi, and she's supposed to be Yamuna personified, and Krishna agreed for that, and he took her on the chariot. And then we see, because this is five queens, the very chapter name of the chapter is Five Queens Married by Krishna. So we see that it starts off with this Kalindi, who happens to be Yamuna personified, right? So that's one of the things. And then after that, we also seen that Krishna took permission from Yudhishthira to go to Dwarka, and when he returned to his country. 1 minute, there's one more, I think. Yeah, we also seen that it starts off with Kalindi, whom Krishna agrees to marry, and then Krishna takes her in the chariot. And after this, again, Krishna, and then we seen that Yudhishthira also has asked Krishna to construct a house, and that was being planned by Vishwakarma. And it's amazing to see, right? These things are so surreal. Imagine the Pandavas asking Krishna, can you construct a beautiful house for us? And Krishna gets Vishwakarma. this is what happens, isn't it? Imagine you are a friend of the president of the country, and he has so much of influence. He can get the best of the architects in the country to get it done. And what to speak about Krishna? He's the supreme lord of all the this entire universe, and all the planets and demigods. Everybody are at his disposal, and everybody is like ready to serve him. And so Krishna is got his architect Vishwakarma, like I even mentioned last week. Also, Vishwakarma is like one of the key architects who not only build this house, but also even if you go to Nanda Bhavan in Vrindavan, you see that some of the pillars have been constructed by Vishwakarma in Krishna's home, which is Nanda Bhavan. And Krishna is always very loving towards his Pandavas. Whenever they ask him, he just stayed with them and things like that. And then we also seen that when Agni they wanted to consume. Again, it's very interesting. All the demigods, all the devatas, whether it's Agni or whether it's Varuna or it's Chandra, they're almost having an interaction with Krishna, right? So earlier also we seen how Indra was lashing out, rains on the people of Vrindavan, and how Krishna showed that he's not the controller. I am the supreme controller. So when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the supreme controller, how we can understand this by listening to Krishna Katha. We've seen that how Krishna showed even someone like Varun, like Indra, like you are not the controller, I am the controller. Bhoktaram Yajana Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Right? He says, I am the one who's the master of all these planets. So, which is why Krishna is always constantly showing. And here in this case, also we see that Agni god was interested in consuming this Kandava forest, and he goes and Krishna allows for that, and then Agni Dev, the Devata Agni Dev was happy with that, and then he gives Arjuna nice Gandiva the bow, and it's very interesting, isn't it, to say, because we know that Krishna Arjuna's very famous bow is the Gandiva, but we see like who is given it? It's Agni Dev who has given it, along with 4 white horses and an invisible quail and things like that. So it's interesting to see like how all the divine pastimes that are happening over here. And because Arjuna was with Krishna, he had all these beautiful boons that are coming through, like either in the form of like so sometimes it's very interesting. Even though the Pandavas were going through a very hard time, one of the things that also happened is while they were having going through this hard time, whether it's Vanavas or things like that, on the sidelines, Arjuna was getting all these benedictions. Agni Dev giving him Gandiva and things like that. Like so many different things he was gathering, all these powers he was gathering to get ready for the Kurukshetra. So in this way, even the Kandava forest was devoured by the Agni god, and again we've seen that the two things which happen in this paragraph. One is Agni Dev was being satisfied with Krishna giving him, and in return he gives this beautiful chariot with the white horse and Gandiva to Arjuna, and then we also see like. The Arjuna saves one of the demon from this forest, and that demon builds up this Maya Sabha. Actually, in our language, you call it Maya Sabha, I think, right? Nagarajan. So, Nagarajan. So, something like that was constructed by this demon who was very happy that Arjuna saved from the forest fire, and that Maya Sabha was something which was like very tricky. And when Duryodhana came there, he mistook the land for water and water for land, and he landed up doing something, and then he feels insulted, like that maybe the Pandavas deliberately did this. They called him, and then created this kind of an illusion where he thought it's land, and he landed up putting his foot in the water. So he's very insulted, and like one of the thing about insult is like your false ego. It pricks your false ego, and you feel very, very this thing, you want to take revenge, and you feel very hurt and things like that. So false ego is something which is very fragile. So if anybody, like if you hurt anybody's false ego, that really a lot of repercussions will be there. So that's the same thing here. Duryodhana was like so angry that he was being insulted out there. But in the meanwhile, anyway, Krishna took permission from Yudhishthira, and he was just returning back. And then he was finding a good time to marry Kalindi, who's Yamuna personified. And we see that the king of Avantara, that's another one, which is Ujjain. I think the kings of Avantara were Vindhya and Anuvindhya. Both the kings were under the control of Duryodhana, and they had a sister. And again, she was looking for a husband, and she had to select. And it's very interesting. In those days, they had this, what do you call that? where the girl could go and choose whomever you want, kind of thing. And she had to select a husband. Um, in the assembly of princes, what he strongly desired for Krishna to have as husband. So we know that in those days, whether they were kind of different kingdoms, like Dwaraka, Mathura, and then you have here Avantipura kingdom, which is actually which is Ujjain right now. So it's amazing, isn't it? All these places of Krishna Katha mentioned in Krishna Katha are right now there in the land of Bharat, in India. This place Avantipura is nothing that Ujjain. Um, yeah, so you can see that during the assembly for selecting husband, Krishna was present, and he forcibly took the sister of these kings, and then and he forced away Mitravinda in the presence of all other royal princesses, and being able to, the princes were left looking at each other. So this is the valor of Krishna. When Krishna was there, whether we've seen earlier also when Rukmini was there, he just took her in the chariot and he just left, and everybody, all the people, like Shishupal and all of them, they were just like chasing him and things like that. And then we see like how he taught a lesson to Shishupal, and we seen how he went and even spared the life of Rukmini, right? Rukmini's brother, in that fight. So sorry, I'm just connecting the dots back because we covered these chapters earlier, where Krishna goes in response to Rukmini's call, and he goes and brings her. So again, after this incident, Krishna married the daughter of king of Koshala. Again, the king of Koshala was called as Nagnajit, and again he had a beautiful daughter called Satya, and again because he's a daughter of Nagnajit, her name was Nagnajita, and again Nagnajit, obviously a father wants to give the daughter to the best one who can defeat seven bulls. Actually, there was a competition going on, and Krishna was like, so that is something which many people couldn't go and handle, because many princes who visited this temple, and many princes who visited the kingdom, but they were not able to overcome these bulls. So it's very interesting in Swayamvaram, for every girl there used to be a Swayamvaram where the princes were called, and they had to go and they prove their skills, and the person who goes and wins over that, like this in this case, like they had to go and defeat the bulls, and the only person who defeats the seven bulls will be able to marry his daughter. So we can see that even though the other princes, they were not able to do that, but when it came to Krishna was so effortlessly went and did that. So and so this is the beauty about Krishna. And when Satya understood that Krishna himself had come, she was very pleased. So we can see that all in those days, whether it is Kalindi or whether it is Satya, whether it is Rukmini, everybody were like heard so much about Krishna that they were made up their mind that I'm going to marry only Krishna and nobody else. So here when she came to know that Krishna has come here and he's taking on so she was really super happy. She was so pleased that the husband of the goddess of fortune has come to accept her. And this was because this was like a dream come true, right? We all say that we very famous word like dream come true. So she was thinking, if I perform any pious activities in my ability, and if I've sincerely thought all along to have Krishna as husband, my Krishna may be pleased to fulfill my long desire. So we have to understand that whether it is Devaki, or whether it is Mother Yashoda, or whether it is Nanda Maharaj, all of them who had done lot of austerity in their previous life, lot of austerity in the previous life in order to get Krishna as the son. So like we see some of the devotees, they treat Krishna like Balagopala, like that. So that's the beauty about Krishna. We can always have this different relationship, different rasa with Krishna. We can, whether we treat Krishna as Balagopala, whether we treat Krishna like Arjuna as a friend, or whether we treat Krishna as a father, or like our well-wisher, because Krishna says, right, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. So in every capacity, Krishna is ready to accept the relationship, and all that the bottom line is he just wants to have a loving relationship. Otherwise, in whichever way we want to have this relationship, we can always engage in that loving relationship with Krishna. So here we can see that even Satya was feeling so happy that I do not know how the Supreme Lord can be pleased. And he's the master of the Lord, and things like, my Lord, I'm your eternal servant. And a beautiful analogy coming from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. So Nagnajit was a very pious man, and obviously he was very happy. Began to worship to the best of, he presented himself before the Lord, and now Nagnajit also was very happy to give his daughter Satya to Krishna. And he kind of like quote unquote, my dear Lord, you are the proprietor of the whole cosmic manifestation, and you are the Narayan, the resting place of all the living creatures. You are self-sufficient and pleased with your personal opulences, right? Krishna is called as Atmaram. Atmaram is someone who's self-satisfied. So this is as devotees of Krishna, we have to understand this point very, very clear, that throughout the Krishna Katha, Krishna is only reciprocating to the devotees. He is actually called Atmaram, someone who is very self-satisfied and he has got nothing. Krishna says also, I'm just doing my duty because I don't want to set a bad example, because everybody will follow whatever I do over here. So that's why I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm totally neutral and I have no interest in any of these material things, because everything, he is the source of everything. He is being served by the goddess of fortune in the spiritual world. And this material world is a perfect reflection of the spiritual world. So why would he need the material world? Because everything, he is the origin of the entire thing, right? Aham sarvasya prabhuvo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanita. I'm the source of all the spiritual and material world, Krishna says. So if he is the source itself, there is no need for him to really engage in all this. But he's reciprocating. When Rukmani writes a love letter, immediately he's reciprocating. When the gopis are lovingly, they just not allow him to go in the chariot, he writes a beautiful letter through Uddhava and just asks him to pacify the gopis. So he's only reciprocating. Ananyas chintayanto ma ye jana paryupachate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogashemam vahamyam. To those who are serving me, I'm always reciprocating. I'm just taking care of the yogashemam. That's what we have to understand. And Krishna is the super soul of all this. So he could understand the mind of Satya. So here we can see like how Nagnajit was feeling so pleased about Krishna, that the Supreme Lord himself. Can you imagine, like somebody is like, we know somebody in our family, and the king or the president of the country comes and says, okay, I would like to marry your daughter. You'll be like, wow, president of the country coming and asking for my daughter. Oh, this is amazing. So this was the kind of a feeling. But another important thing also to notice is that, can you imagine, like in Dwapara Yuga, how fortunate the people were that the Narayana, Supreme Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself, they were dealing directly in person. But in Kali Yuga, we do not have that fortune. Like, when Dhruva Maharaj, he meditated for 6 months, so much of austerity he did, and immediately Narayan Krishna appeared in front of him. But in Kali Yuga, Krishna just appears in the form of Namarupa, right? Kalikale Namarupa Krishna Avatar. So we can't expect in Kali Yuga. This is the most fallen of all the 4 yugas. So we can't expect Krishna to come in person. But we have to, as long as we understand that Krishna and Krishna Nama is not different, we have to keep that in mind, that yes, we are happy with engaging ourselves in the presence of the Krishna, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So here we can see that Nagrijit was so happy. You are self-sufficient, and how can I offer you anything? How could I please you by such an offering? And it's so insignificant. This is the mood, right? So this is what happens when we read Krishna Katha. We can get into that mood of devotion by seeing all these even the great kings. They were like feeling so pleased with Krishna, and this is what we can gather from. This is what we can learn from, that in the mood of submission, in the mood of servitor, because we are servants of Krishna. We should always, in the material world, servant means something very, very menial. But in the spiritual world, when you say I'm a servant of Krishna, that's the highest position that we can have. And Krishna was saying, he was very, very pleased. Krishna could understand, right? He's Atmarava. Sarvasya chaham sriti sannivisto matasmite jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna says, I am the super soul sitting in everyone's heart. And from me comes remembrance knowledge. So he can understand what Satya was thinking in her mind, And and this is what Krishna is very pleased with. He likes to have that loving devotees. He was always very pleased with the respectful worship of the king in offering. So he was very pleased even with the king, Nagnajit. And he says, my dear Nagnajit, you know very well that anyone in the princely order is regular in the position, will never ask for anything from anyone, however exalted he may be. Such requests by a Kshatriya king may have been deliberately forbidden by the way learned Vedic scriptures. If a Kshatriya breaks this regulation, his action is condemned by learned scholars. But in spite of these rigid regulatory principles, I'm asking you for the hand of your beautiful daughter just to establish our relationship in return of the great reception. So you see that Krishna was like very once again establishing this Vedic culture, right? Because he says, right, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrajamiham. From time to time, I come down in whenever there is a decline in the religious principles and whenever there's decline in this religiosity, he distanced himself. So Krishna always comes back to reset the religious principles and to ensure that this Vedic culture and these religious principles are being followed very meticulously. So they all followed the Vedic culture to the dot. Um, so he's aware of that, and that's the reason why he's following the culture, and he's just asking for the hand of Satya. And you may also be pleased to inform that in our family tradition, there's no scope of us offering anything in exchange for accepting your daughter. We cannot pay any price you may impose for delivering her. In other words, Krishna wanted the hand of Satya from the king without fulfilling the conditions of defeating the seven bulls. Um, After hearing the same, because that's a condition, isn't it? His father put for the Swayamvaram. So, after hearing the statement of Krishna, King Nagnajit said, "My dear Lord, you're the reservoir of all pleasure, all opulences, and all qualities. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always lives on your chest. Under these circumstances, who can be a better husband for my daughter? Both my daughters have prayed for this opportunity. You're the chief of the Yadu dynasty. You may kindly know that from the very beginning, I have made a vow to marry my daughter to the suitable candidate who can come out victorious in the test. I have imposed this test just to understand the prowess and position of my intended son-in-law. And you, Sri Krishna, you are the chief of all the heroes. I'm sure you will be able to bring the seven bulls under control without any difficulty. Until now, they have never been subdued by any prince. Anyone who has attempted to bring them under control simply had his limbs broken. So you can imagine how powerful the bulls were, right? I mean, even the princes, because no matter what, Kshatriyas were like very powerful in those days. And imagine even those Kshatriyas also, they had the bones broken, and so we can imagine how powerful the bulls were, right? And if you remember, even when Kamsa asked Krishna to come, he did all kind of planning, isn't it? He tried to get the bulls, he tried to get the elephants to stamp Krishna and kill Krishna. So this is the nature of the demonic people. But that is the nature of the demonic people. But here Nagnajit was not a demonic person, but this was the condition he put because Kshatriya means they really mean Kshatriya. Varnashrama Dharma was followed to the dot in those days, which means when you say Kshatriya, then he's supposed to have determination, he's supposed to have immense strength. He should be someone like Arjuna. He could just go into a forest and hunt down a tiger. He used to go with just with a knife and you can pull down any animal. This is the kind of valor you expected, not that, oh, my father is a Kshatriya, I'm a Kshatriya. No. Today that's how it's become, isn't it? It's become caste system. But Krishna says it very clearly, Chaturvanyam Maya system, guna karma vibhaga, according to your gunas. So when you're Kshatriya, you should have those gunas. And this is what the reason why he was arranging for this Swayamvaram. So here Nagrijit is saying, Krishna, if you can kindly bridle the seven bulls and bring them under control, then undoubtedly you're selected as the desired husband. After hearing this, Krishna could understand that the king does not want to break his vow. So, Kshatriyas, obviously, they just say something and they stick to it. And this is what happens even when Arjuna used to make vows, right? And Krishna was always very carefully, protecting Arjuna at all point of times. So in order to fulfill the desire of the king, Krishna tightened his belt and prepared to fight. And he immediately divided himself into seven Krishnas, and each of them immediately caught hold of the bull and bridled its nose, thus bringing it under control as if it were a plaything. Can you imagine how Krishna does it, isn't it? So earlier also we've seen how Krishna is the beauty about Krishna is Krishna can clone himself, just like how a super soul, it's existing in everyone's heart, but still super soul is one. So this is the beauty of Krishna. So similarly, we've seen earlier also he kind of like Brahma steals the cows. He kind of like he expands himself into cowboys and cows. So this is the greatness about Krishna. And when Krishna came, why we call Krishna as Paripurna Avatar, it's like completely all this entire, when you say Bhagavan, he was totally showing his leelas that he is the supreme lord. He was literally breaking anything to just show that this, yes, he's beyond everything, beyond the rituals, beyond any regulations. So he just cloned himself into seven bulls and just he fought with their bulls and brought them under control. So this is the beauty about Krishna. So we have to understand. Only one of the Acharya, he said, like, how can we fall in love with Krishna? And the Acharya said, we can fall in love with Krishna when we know how great Krishna is, when we understand how beautiful Krishna is. And this is the reason why Krishna Katha is so important for all the Krishna devotees, because this is how we can fall in love, right? Just like how Rukmini fell in love with Krishna because she heard about Krishna. Just she didn't even see Krishna, she just heard. Similarly, this reading Krishna Katha is so auspicious that it should really bring that so much of a joy and love in our heart. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Madchitta Madgata Pranam Bodhayante Parasparam Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tusyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. So Krishna says, the thoughts of my devotees always dwell in me. That means Krishna's devotees are always thinking of Krishna, and they get great satisfaction and bliss by always enlightening each other with me. So this is exactly what we are trying to do in Krishna Katha, right? As what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, my devotees, they're always experiencing great satisfaction and bliss by always enlightening each other about Krishna. And what we are talking about Krishna Katha, Krishna's divine Leelas, and how Krishna is going and fighting with the bulls. So these are the things which are Krishna saying, and these are the ones as Krishna is saying will bring satisfaction and bliss to our heart, right? And this is the way in which we in that way we'll be able to have more love for Krishna, and our chanting also will become pure. And not only that, the listening to Krishna Katha is purifies our soul also. So when Krishna brought the bulls under the control, if their strength and pride were immediately smashed, the name and fame which the bulls have attained was vanquished. Obviously, they must be knowing, right, in the neighborhood that these bulls are like amazing, nobody can defeat. So when Krishna had the bull's bridle, he pulled them strongly, just like a child plays wood, like a toy would. And upon seeing this advantage, King Natarajan became very astonished, and immediately, with great pleasure, brought his daughter Satya before Krishna and handed over to him. So we have to understand that, Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong people. So he is the source of everything. If somebody is having certain ability, uh, Paurisham Nushu, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the ability in man. I am the strength of the strong people. So imagine he is the source of everything. So when we see some WWF wrestlers and people who are like immense strength and pulling a truck and all these things, we'll be thinking like, oh my God, where did this strength come from? So this we have to understand that this strength is coming from Krishna. He is the source of the entire strength. And the queens of the king Nagnajit were very much pleased as well. And Krishna was immediately accepted. And because, obviously King Nagnajit was so happy that he was ready to offer Krishna to his daughter Satya. And since the kings and queens were very pleased, there was celebration all over the city as usual, and everywhere were sounds of conch shell and kettle drum. So when we always have to understand that sometimes in this material world we depend on many people for help and all that. But when we look at Krishna, depending on Krishna for your help, can you imagine? Through Krishna Katha, we can understand that there is nothing impossible for Krishna, right? He's not in. Sometimes we may have a great friend, very influential friend, very rich friend, but here we're talking about Krishna. Through the Krishna Katha, we can see that for him everything was possible. This impossible is nothing. Just like that one of the ads are there, right? Impossible is nothing. So it's like that. He would for him effortlessly, whether it's a bulls or whether it's lifting Govardhan hill, everything is so effortlessly done by Krishna. So we can see that the learned Brahmana showered their blessings and everything was going on. First of all, he gave them so now we can see that Nagnajit was so pleased he gave a dowry to his daughter and son-in-law as follows. First of all, he gave them 10,000 cows. You can imagine in those days, right, in Dwapara Yuga, the kind of a wealth that the kings had, because in those days, the wealth was measured in terms of like how many cows you have, right? Where Krishna himself had 900,000 cows. So here we can see that he, first of all, he gave 10,000 cows. And then, um, so in all inhabitants of city dressed themselves, Vikala was very much pleased. Okay, yeah. So he gave 10,000 cows and 3,000 well-dressed young maid servants ornamented to their necks. And the system of dowry is still currently in India. So this was a kind of like a valor kind of thing. For the Kshatriya, it was like a very proud thing or a pride thing to show, like, this is what he's giving to his daughter. And this is a nice way of exchanging, this, trying to show in those days, like, the valor and all that, especially for the Kshatriya princes. Because there are certain things, like when you say Kshatriya, there are certain things which are expected in those days. And the same culture that got carried forward, but of course, it took a different turn in different caste system and things like that. But when a Kshatriya prince is married, at least a dozen maid servants of similar age are given along with the bride. And after giving the cows and maid service, the king enriched the dowry by giving 9,000 elephants and 100 times more chariots than elephants. So we can imagine, we can just bring to mind the kind of opulence, the kind of kind of like what kind of a richness was there in the land of Bharat, right? In those days, 9,000 elephants. Seriously, we can't even find two, three elephants in the zoo. Rarely we'll find that. And this means he gave 900,000 chariots. So you can imagine. And he gave 100 times more horses than chariots, and 100 times more men servant than horses. Royal princes maintained such men servant and maid servants with all the provisions, as if they were their own children or family members. And after giving this dowry, the king of Koshala prince bade his daughter and great son-in-law be seated on a chariot and allowed them to go to their home, guarded by a division of well-equipped soldiers. As they traveled fast to their new home, the king's heart was enlivened with with affection for him. So Nagnajit, obviously, he's on cloud nine, right? As they say, because he's so happy. This is exactly he couldn't expect more. Like the king of the Lord of the Supreme Lord of all the planets is there marrying his daughter. What else more can he want? So he's like literally given everything at his disposal, like 10,000 cows and chariots and horses and all that. So we can bring to our mind, like the opulences. Recently, I was watching a video where they showed about Dwarka under the sea, and I was seeing that, and they were showing this huge, massive pillars and structures and all that under the water. The city of Dwarka. And when I was seeing that, I was just thinking, oh my God, if everything is in the water, can you just bring to your mind if the same all that structure was there on the land? What kind of a this thing the city it would have been, right? And it was like I believe the people who diving in, they were saying like it was everything was so beautifully planned, the roads and everything. So even the people, the archaeologists, they were really surprised to see the level of detail that was there in building Dwarka. So that gives us a light because the proof is in the pudding, they say, right? Under the water, the proof the proof is still there, where we can feel. They say that we're going to have a submarine. I believe in future they're going to have a submarine where people can go and take a look at the city of Dwarka. If that happens, I think that will give us a real insight of how beautiful the city of Dwarka has been. So before this marriage of Satya with Krishna, there have been competitive engagements with the bulls of King Nagnajit and many other princes and other dynasties as well, as they tried to win the hand of Satya. Yet we seen that, right? When the frustrated princes heard that Krishna was successful in getting the hand of Satya by subduing the bull, naturally they became envious. It happens, isn't it? They say like neighbors envy owners' pride. So they were very envious, obviously. And while Krishna was traveling to Dwarka, all the frustrated and defeated princes encircled him and began to shower their arrows on the bridal party. And when they attacked Krishna's party and shot arrows like instant torrents of rain, Arjuna, the best friend of Krishna, took charge of the challenge, and he alone very easily drove them off to please his great friend Krishna on occasion of his origin. But again, you can see that how Krishna and Arjuna had such loving relationship, isn't it? That when all that was happening, not that Krishna can't do it, but Arjuna was just showing his love for Krishna by So he was taking cards. So Arjuna immediately took up his bow Gandiva and chased away all the princes, who were just kind of like throwing arrows over here, and without killing even one of them. And after this, the chief of the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna, along with his newly married wife and the huge dowry, entered the city of Dwarka with great pomp. Krishna there lived with his wife very peacefully. So as we all know, even when Narada Muni went and visited the city of Dwarka, he was surprised to see that Krishna was like literally expanded himself. Literally, in every when Narada would go and visit one kingdom, he could see Krishna with one prince, and he would go to another palace, and you would see Krishna with Rukmani, and another palace you would see Krishna with Satya. So like that, Krishna used to expand himself into 16,000 Krishnas to be with the queens as well. So that's the beauty about Krishna, right? So Krishna is everything is unlimited. And besides Kunti Devi, Krishna had also another paternal aunt, Shruti Kirti, and she was married and lived in Kekaya province. She had a daughter whose name was Bhadra, and Bhadra wanted to marry Krishna, and her brother handed her over to him unconditionally. And Krishna accepted her as his bona fide wife. Thereafter, Krishna married a daughter of the king of Madras province. Her name was Lakshmana, and she had all the good qualities. So we see that another two girls like Bhadra and Lakshmana also, they've been, and she was forcibly married. Lakshmana was forcibly married by Krishna, who took her in the same way that Garuda snatched the jar of nectar from the hands of the demigod. So with Krishna, like I said, Krishna is the supreme Lord. He broke all the rules, and he showed like he is the supreme Lord. So here in this case also Krishna kidnapped this girl in the presence of many princes in the assembly of the Swayamvara. And the Swayamvara is a ceremony in which the bride can select her own husband from the assembly of many princes. So, so we can see like Krishna was like I always say, right? Krishna Katha is not static at all. It's so dynamic. It's so much of action. If people think that Netflix and Amazon, there's a lot of action, we should look at Krishna Katha. It's so much of nectar, so much of, but this is the original nectar. This is the original action where the Supreme Lord himself was engaging in all kind of action, whether it is, protecting the devotees or whether it is responding to the call of the devotees who loved him. And so whether it is, so even though Bhadra he was very keen to marry her, but in the case of Lakshmana, he just took her away and in the Swayamvar in the presence of all the princes, which is just amazing because that's what Krishna is. And the description of Krishna's marriage with the five girls mentioned in this chapter is not sufficient. I agree. He had many other thousands of wives beside him. Krishna accepted the other thousands of wives after killing a demon called Bhaumashura. And of all these thousands of girls were held captive in the place of Bhaumashura, and Krishna released them and married them. So, like as I always said, Krishna is only reciprocating. A lot of things have so it so happened in India, even though all these Krishna's Leelas have happened, there was a gap during certain period in the last few centuries where knowledge only got passed on through our grandparents and things like that. So the knowledge got diluted, and in the process, when you had other religions coming into India, they always looked at how to demonize or how to kind of like spread this rumor, like like how we see in Pandavas, there was a rumor that Pandavas have been killed in the fire accident. So like that, they try to create all kind of rumors, and they try to downplay these leelas of Krishna, saying that they're all myth, they never happened, these are all stories created and all this stuff. But we see that all the places, this is written by Vedavyas, and these are the stories which are brought from the Sampradaya, bona fides. That's why it's very, very important to learn through the bona fides Sampradaya so that we're getting the right knowledge through the right source. And our knowledge is coming directly from the Brahma Madhya Sampradaya, from Prabhupada himself who had translated this. And we are so fortunate that today we are able to sit somewhere far away from the land of Bharat and still go through this nectar of devotion and trying to understand how much of nectar, how much of things have actually happened. And we are seeing that all the cities, everything, whether it's Ujjain, whether it's Dwarka, these cities are there. Nanda Bhavan is there. Yashoda Mata, the place where she made buttermilk for Krishna, all those places are still there. So it is very important. Like now we have to just relive the beautiful pastimes of Krishna and spread this knowledge and spread the right knowledge, explaining to people, like even among Hindus, among the people of Sanatana Dharma, there's so much of misconception. They think, oh, Krishna is enjoying with his gopis. Krishna is married like 16,000 back. But like as I said in the beginning, Krishna is called as Atma Rama, which means there is no need for Krishna for anything else, but he's just reciprocating. When the 16,000 princes where they prayed to Krishna because they were kept in captive in Bhaumashura, and they prayed to Krishna because they were kept captive, nobody would come forward to marry. They prayed to Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated by marrying them. And it was so much of dignity, he kept them in separate palaces, and he was cloned himself. He just expanded himself into 16,000 Krishnas and gave them their association. So we are ending with this chapter, with this beautiful chapter called Five Queens Married by Krishna. And next we'll be covering another beautiful Leela. This is the one which we just now touched a bit. Bhaumashura. We'll see the demon Bhaumashura, how he has captured all the princes. So stay tuned. Next week we are going to have another beautiful nectar coming through. So I'm going to stop over here. Yeah, and any realizations, anything that anybody wants to share?
As always, Sham Prabhuji, some divine inspirations from the Nectar book. As always, thank you for sharing.
Yes, definitely, Prabhu. What a devotee for, like we say, what a friends for what are devotees for? we we share the nectar. We are all swimming in this beautiful ocean of Krishna Katha. This is so joyful, and because the joyful, and
Absolutely.
also it gives us faith. It gives us faith that we are not alone. That whenever we need Krishna, Krishna is not there as just as a deity or there, but we should talk to the deity. We should just explain ourselves to the deity, and Krishna is there as an incarnation, listening to us, and in the background doing everything, just like how he told Arjuna, Arjuna, you just do your duty. I have arranged everything for you. Everything is
Spot
there on the
on.
planet. It's
Funny
there.
you said, yeah. Funny you said that because we were visiting ISKCON in Nairobi, Kenya, and the
Mm,
Prabhuji said that first things first, you
mm,
need to accept Krishna. Once you
mm.
accept Krishna, leave it up to him.
Yeah.
And you have actually poured that nectar directly in this
Mm,
chapter.
mm. Yeah, exactly, Prabhuji. It's all, just have to accept Krishna. And if this is what kind of has to, because we are normal human beings, we are covered by Maya. Every inch of this planet is covered by Maya. We are living in Maya's world. Krishna's world is the Krishna Loka, but we are here eating in Maya's world. But we are holding on to the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is the only way Maya will spare us. Otherwise, Maya is like torches, like we've seen that, right? There is a beautiful picture of how Maya is holding us like puppets.
Yes,
But if you
true.
take to Krishna's lotus feet, then she'll leave us. Then Yoga Maya comes into picture.
Absolutely, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. As always, your association is divine. And Mataji, also please convey our happiness with Mataji also posting such beautiful darshan pictures every day. That's such a
Definitely.
wonderful seva. So please tell her thanks also. Sadhu Prabhu, anything would like to add? Happy to all you have your association.
No, Prabhu. It was great listening to you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Nada Prabhu, Amoga Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, you spoke about like 5 wives for Krishna. I think we are all, jivas. So Krishna is the enjoyer. So we should always
Mm.
be in the service mode where, he feels enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Krishna is the enjoyer. That's the most important to understand. He's the supreme enjoyer. So whatever we are doing, we have to understand that he is the one who is enjoying. We should always keep ourselves for the pleasure of Krishna, to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Um, yeah, any other comments? Any Sanchit Mataji, anything want to add? Anil Prabhu, anything at all?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, beautiful katha. Every time we listen to one chapter, it's all more nectar than the previous one. It's like as it gets sweeter, as we have darshan. I mean, the darshan gets sweeter every time. So it's similar like that. And this is like one of those chapters on which there's, so as you mentioned, like there were many centuries in between where the knowledge was
Mm,
lost, and people started making different concoctions out of it, and that Krishna had 15,000 wives
mm,
and 108 wives. But like how he did it, like even the marriage with Satyabhama, I mean,
yeah.
none of the other princes could do it because they could not replicate into seven, right? Like to kill seven bulls,
Mm,
it was not possible humanly. So Krishna shows he's a
yeah.
superhuman being, like in that way. He replicated into seven to kill seven. So
Yeah.
nobody talks about this part, that he's providing separate palaces. Like we can talk about, if a guest come, we can only provide a room, right?
Mm,
That's not true for the whole year. We cannot even do that. And he's providing separate palaces to all these different
yeah.
princes he married. So, I mean, it's like, achinta bheda bheda tattva. So inconceivable in itself, because this is completely um,
Mm,
inconceivable in that sense. Like we cannot think of it, like humanly not possible in our dimension to think what as a supreme personality of Godhead he only came to earth to show some of his leelas.
yeah.
So we have the base, the foundation of faith,
Mm,
and then in the association of devotees, of course, we do the Krishna Kathas to purify
yeah.
ourselves and chant and be in the process. But first, as you mentioned, as Prabhu mentioned, like the faith. I mean, once we have the faith that we understand that Krishna is there, and
Yeah.
then the rest of the things follows. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Yeah, wonderful. You always kind of add wonderful listening to the nectar. Nice way to explain about this. Yeah. Amaga Prabhu, Anil Prabhu, Nail,
No,
anything
just
else?
say thank you for everything, John Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So
Thank
it was
you,
a
Anil
great
Prabhu.
service.
Consistently you've been always been attending, Prabhu, so thanks so much for always giving your association, and we are very, very happy all of us are staying together in this together. So hopefully 2025 goes great for all of us, and we cover so much more nectar and spread this knowledge with everyone, so that we can answer on behalf, whenever these topics
Yeah.
come up. So, and I feel very pleased today. I'm in Soho Temple, so I'm going to just log off and go and join the Aarti now. But it's so joyful to do Krishna Katha in the temple, isn't it? It's so beautiful. And today also happens to be like, according to India, the Ekadasi thing also. So, and tomorrow morning being, Putra the Ekadasi as well. So wonderful. Happy Ekadasi to
John
everyone.
Prabhuji, are you there every Thursday then, or I thought it was Wednesdays you go?
No, Wednesday I come here, but today I just had to, come urgently,
Okay.
to Microsoft showroom. So
Yeah.
out here. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just an exception. Normally I take it from home, so that's why my background is different.
Sure.
It's only me at this time. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for your
Hare
association.
Krishna.
We are able to
Let's
continue.
please unmute and say three loud Hari Bols to Prabhu. Yeah. Hari Bol.
Hari
Hare
bol.
Bol.
Hari
Hari
bol.
Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
bol.
Oh,
Ram
thank you
Prabhu
so
ki
much. We
jai.
managed to do it today. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Vaishnavi
Thank you,
Bhyo.
Prabhu.
Thank you
This
so
is
much, Prabhu.
commitment.
Hare
Vaishnavi.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां
Pranam
पावनेभ्यो
Pavane
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah.
अनन्तकोटि
Anantakoti Vaishnavit ki jai.
जय
Srila
प्रभुपाद की
Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
jai.
जय
Sham Prabhuji ki jai.
Prabhu
जय
ki jai. Sachin Mataji ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank
हरे
you.
Hare
कृष्ण
Krishna. Hare Krishna.